It dawned on me the other day as I drove around Bradford that there are a lot of buildings in this town that people no longer know what they were built for or what they were used for. So I thought it might be interesting to do a couple coffee with the curators and explain what these buildings were in their past. Now, the title I thought might be Wonder What That Building Was. Gee, I never knew, but that seemed a little long. So this will just be called What Was That? And this is the first one. It's 11 Chestnut Street. And believe it or not, it was a Bell telephone building back in 1903. So we invite you to join us for this edition of Coffee with the Curator. Now, you've probably drove by this building many times. It's at 11 Chestnut Street, and it's right behind the old Forced Oil building. You may remember that the VFW was here for many years, since 1936 till about 1997. And later, Joel Kravitz had a bicycle shop here, but it started out as a telephone exchange in 1903. Now, telephones begin in Bradford as early as about 1892, when a company called the Bradford Telephone Exchange was over 57 Main Street. And you could call the businesses, those that had a phone, and maybe some of the other wealthier people in town, but the majority of people didn't have phones. They would just walk into a store and find out what they wanted. The building was formally opened on November 1st of 1903, and the Bradford era declared that Bradford had gained the best and latest in telephony and concluded that the city of Bradford should congratulate itself on having an up-to-date telephone exchange with all the new wrinkles of the latest inventions. The new system was described in detail in the era and said it consisted of a new central energy multiple switchboards with automatic signals together with multitudinous necessary expensive appliances for giving rapid and efficient telephone service. That's certainly a mouthful. And here is a photograph of that new central energy multiple switchboard with automatic signals as it appeared in the newspaper in 1903 following the opening of the Bell Telephone Building. And here is what it looked like when the telephone operators were at work on that switchboard. When telephones were first introduced into the United States, say about 1880 or so, the first telephone operators were young boys, ages 16 to 19. And boy, was that a terrible idea. They just didn't have the patience to be telephone operators. There was swearing, back talk, and serious complaints on the part of the subscribers of the telephones. And the telephone companies knew they needed a different type of telephone operator. The next choice were widows and old maids. Hey, I'm quoting the newspapers here. But they didn't really work out either. While they were polite to the customers on the other end of the phone, they just lacked personality. And by chance, when some younger girls and women were hired, they fit the bill exactly. And this is the way the new style of telephone operator was described. She may not be educated, but she must be nice and possessed of a medium grade of intelligence. She must be able to write a letter, make a clear statement in good English, hold her tongue, keep her temper, and give her undivided attention to the business of the office. The golden anniversary of the invention of the telephone was in May of 1926, and all the Bell Telephone employees and associated officials stood outside 11 Chestnut Street and had their photograph taken. In the back, leaning against the pillar on the left, is William Hanley, the man that built the building. The other people are local businessmen, telephone executives, and managers of the telephone company. In 1926, there were 5,600 telephones in Bradford, and every day 36,000 calls were made through the switchboard and 200 toll calls or long distance calls. The business office was moved to 13 Congress Street in 1924, and the upstairs of the building remained empty for several years. 5 years later, in December of 1929, it was announced that a large new Bell Telephone building would be built on the corner of Congress Street and East Gordon Street, and the cornerstone for the new building was laid on July 25th of 1930. This building, no longer in use and outdated by telephone standards, was sold to the Veterans of Foreign Wars in 1936, and the VFW remained here until 1997. In 1997, the VFW moved down the street to the old Holly Hotel, and the building was sold again to Joel Gravitz, who opened a bike shop here called Bikes and Bits and operated it for several years. The bike shop has been gone for many years, and today the building remains empty. But just imagine all the telephone conversations that pass through the switchboard in this building. Like other buildings, it's in Bradford's historic district and on the National Register of Historic Places. It certainly has earned its place in history.